Hey folks, so I'm playing Heal Hitler. It's a game that was shared in the IDW subreddit recently. It's a game where you give therapy to Adolf Hitler to try and stop him from becoming a genocidal maniac. I've actually made some attempts before. I have not succeeded in healing him. I'm not sure how exactly it can be done. So I'm going to make another attempt here, and hopefully this will be the one where I do it.
This game was created by one developer and two voice actors. It is a psychology simulator taking place in 1925, before Hitler came to power. It is a game about resolving Hitler's trauma and preventing catastrophe via therapy and psychology. The facts in the game are historically accurate. During the marketing period, people accused the developer of being a Nazi apologist. He's not. He is Czech, and Hitler murdered tens of thousands of his ancestors. This game is an experiment. You are using methods that were available back then. It is a conversational game, and you can finish it in under an hour. In each therapy session, you get 3 to 8 choices that influence the ending. Hitler was a human too, just like you. If you distance yourself from him by dehumanizing him and calling him a monster, you're doing psychological damage to yourself. In order to develop your shadow, you need to realize and admit that given the right life circumstances, you could become someone like Hitler too. You're about good and evil. And if we don't admit that someone like Hitler could come again, we are doomed to repeat history. Enjoy the game.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, Mr. Hitler. It is very nice to meet you.
Guten Tag.
Well, you can lie down on the sofa there. And what brings you into therapy today?
Well, I just returned from giving a public speech, and my colleagues mentioned that I seem too angry. Once I overheard them talking about me, and they called me an angry little man.
And do you agree with them?
I don't think so. They lack willpower, so I don't really value what they have to say anyway. They are just minions.
When they commented on your being angry, do you know what you were talking about during the speech?
About the state of Germany. It was very humiliating for our country to lose the Great War. And now we have to pay reparations, and our army is restricted. Our economy is in shambles. I feel humiliated, and someone is at fault here.
Well, yes, that must feel humiliating. I noticed you mentioned Germany as your country, but on the telephone, you mentioned that you are Austrian.
I am, but I refuse to fight for Austria-Hungary. I absolutely hate them, but I would do anything for Germany. There is no better nation.
Why do you feel that Germany is the best nation?
It's an idea I got when I was listening to Wagner. I had it for some time, you see, but later I learned it was called Pan-Germanism. I want to unite all the German-speaking people into one nation. We have to get back what is ours. They took it from us in the Great War. It was a horrible loss.
And when did you make the decision to fight for Germany instead of Austria-Hungary?
It was in my adolescence when I thought of this. My father loved Austria-Hungary. He worked in the Austrian civil service and he wanted me to do the same thing. We fought a lot about that. What a horrible drunk he was. I hated him. But at least he taught me not to trust the authorities. Anyway, I enlisted in the Bavarian army and they accepted me. So I was able to slip in through the cracks without a problem. No one noticed.
You say you don't trust authorities. But how do you explain that you are an authority yourself? Should the people distrust you because of that?
Distrust me? Of course not. I am reliable and trustworthy. It is the others with the powers that are not, especially in the financial and the education systems.
Can you tell me more about what war was like for you?
What the war was like? Well, I was a messenger, so I was pretty safe most of the time, except for when we were at Wervik in Belgium, when the British attacked. They used the yellow gas and I could not put on the mask in time. My eyes were burning and I could not see a thing. They took me to this field hospital, where the doctor said I was just acting. How dare he? The doctor was nothing but another authority that made me distrust all of them. I could not believe this. I was horribly scared. I felt so helpless. I was never this close to dying before. And the doctor tells me I was just acting? And the horrors I saw at Passchendaele. I could not sleep for months.
So last time I told him that I think this is the experience that you could be struggling with. I could tell him that I think he was just acting, but I'm worried that'll just alienate Hitler and make him unreceptive. So I'm going to go back to saying this.
I think this experience could be what you are struggling with. It is common among soldiers to experience an exceptional emotional distress that could sometimes lead to temporary blindness. If your nervous system was overloaded, it could have ceased to take any further input. The doctors today are calling it shell shock.
That would explain a lot, but I still feel humiliated sometimes. I should not have been that weak. I should have been stronger than that.
So last time I asked if he thought losing the war was somebody's fault. Maybe I need to ask him more about humiliation this time.
It is normal for people to experience humiliation when having shell shock. Part of what our nervous system does is control emotions. Does this humiliation show up in other areas of your life?
I don't want to talk about this right now.
You said that you think that losing the war was somebody's fault?
So last time I did just ask about that, but Hitler's defensive about humiliation, so maybe we need to get around.
Well, while I was in prison, I had a lot of time to think about this, and I am positive it was the Jews, the Marxists, and the Bolsheviks. They stabbed us in the back. They are a cancer. They are a deadly virus to the beautiful and the lovely body of Germany, infecting us from the inside. I despise them. Parasites, they disgust me. I wish I could just eliminate them from the surface of the earth. The Jews are involved with the communists in a conspiracy to take over the world. I think that 3/4 of all the communists are Jews. This combination of Jews and Marxists has already been successful in Russia, and now it threatens the rest of Europe.
You seem very passionate about this. But if I recall correctly, you came here because your colleagues described some of your speeches as being very angry. This could be what your colleagues are referring to. I think you need to be patient about establishing your political program. You won't get very far if you alienate the public. After all, they elect you. And for that, they need to trust you and see you as a responsible leader. If you start talking about eliminating Jews, you won't get anywhere. Maybe you didn't choose the ideal approach here.
What do you suggest then? It is not just me that thinks this, I hope you know. The German people also think the Jews are to blame. It has been this way since I became the leader of the Workers' Party. I hear the anti-Semitic remarks everywhere I go.
You must know how long it took the Prussian generals to prepare for the last war, and that revolutionaries like Mussolini need the will of the people behind them. Slogans, especially ideological ones like anti-Semitism and anti-clericalism, won't bring starving people to the barricades. Why do you and your followers spread hatred toward Jews and papal authority? We can be political opponents, but if you want to lead an entire nation into a better future, we need one another. Bring back the old order of God. How about you write your vision down? It would help you plan for your future.
I've already done this while I was in prison. I had plenty of time to write my book, even though I am not so good at the writing. When I am speaking in public, the right word always comes natural to me, but not so much when I am writing.
Well, that you are already writing your thoughts down is good. Let's use that to identify your main thoughts and feelings during the day. I want you to keep a daily journal of people and situations that trigger an emotional response in you. Maybe other people are seeing these things you are doing as anger. If we journal this, we can have a better understanding of what they see and what you see. Record your feelings and we will talk about it in the next session.
Very well. I will give this a try.
You didn't tell me about your prison experience yet. What happened?
I was supposed to be executed for my role in the beer hall putsch, but they didn't know I would use the trial as a showcase for my political views. It was free publicity, and I won. I managed to get the sentence down from execution to just 5 years imprisonment, and they let me go after a few months for good behavior. I also read a lot, so it was basically a free education at the state's expense. I read Henry Ford's autobiography, and he made a lot of sense when he talked about the Jews. It is the Jews, after all, who govern the American Stock Exchange, which every year makes the Jews more and more the controlling masters of a nation of 120 million. There is only a single great man, Henry Ford, that still maintains his full independence from them, and they hate him for it.
So last time I asked him to tell me more about the beer hall putsch. I don't know if I should do that this time. I think I'll just go ahead and end the session.
I'm afraid we are at the end of our time. Why don't we stop here?
Okay, so last time he had left the party at this time. So same progress. Let's just see where we go from here.
Did you write any journals since we last saw each other?
Actually, no. I didn't find time to do this. But I remember one event from the past when I was in emotional stress, and I am sure of the cause.
Okay, great. Can you describe the event?
I was on a date with a girl at the cafe. She was around 18 years old, and we were talking about my paintings. You see, I wanted to follow a career as a painter, but they didn't accept me anywhere. So I had to look for other ways to get into the business. And at this cafe, as luck would have it, there was a local gallery owner, this very known guy. Fortunately, I had a few of the paintings in my briefcase, so I had something to show him. But when I showed them to him, he basically told me that my watercolor paintings were not worth anything. This wasn't fair to me. I felt horrible, and I walked away. I tried to talk with the girl about it, but when she tried to comfort me and tell me that my paintings were not so bad, I exploded. My skills were way better than this Jewish gallery owner. He had no idea what he was talking about. I taught myself how to paint when I was 9. And this dumbcoff, who had only the formal education, had the nerve to tell me that my paintings were bad?
So last time I followed the thread on the art thing, and I think that's the way to go here.
Yes, he was a verdammt Jew.
Can you tell me more about your dream of being a painter?
I always wanted to paint. I started to paint when I was around 9 years old. My mother always supported me, but my father hated my artistic orientation. He wanted me to become a customs agent like him, and he did not allow me to go to the art school like I wanted to. This was a source of massive conflict between us. An office job would be like a prison to me, but in the end it was okay. I learned a lot about National Socialism in the high school, and then a dropout.
I
going to ask him more about his high school years.
There is nothing to know. I dropped out in the first year. I intentionally did poorly in the class, hoping that once my father saw what little progress I was making at the technical school, he would let me devote myself to my dream.
You've mentioned Jews as the cause of your problems multiple times. First, you mentioned they stabbed Germany in the back in the war, and now they've betrayed you again. Do you see any connection between these events?
What do you mean? Jews are part of the economy. They control the finances. They are insidious. They hide like rats. And they manipulate everything. Everybody can see this. It wasn't hard for me to make this observation.
So important here seems to be the fact that Hitler's mother supported his art.
You talk so much softer about her than you do about other things. Tell me more about her.
When she died, this devastated me. It was a pain I have never experienced before or again.
How did she die?
It was breast cancer. I was 18 years old at the time. Her doctor was a Czech Jew, Dr. Edward Bloch.
So she was someone you loved very much. Do you blame the doctor for her death?
What? No. He was a very kind person, although he was a Jew. He treated my mother free of charge because we had no money at the time. Actually, I sent him a postcard and a painting I made as a thank you. He really was a noble Jew. Some time ago, I found that he said about me that he never saw anyone so devastated with the grief as me in all of his years in the profession.
It seems safe to say that you were very close with your mother and very distant with your father. Could you tell me more about their relationship?
My mother was 22 years younger than him. When we moved to the new farm, a big part of the money was taken from her inheritance. She liked to be active and was very joyful. She also understood the economics. She would go to the post office and help slaughter the pigs. My father was away very often, you see. And when he returned home, he was mostly drunk. And he was very dominant, I would say. Mother listened to him. She had no choice.
I see. Coming back to the pattern I noticed earlier in your girlfriends, you also tend to date girls much younger than yourself, and as you describe them, they are rather submissive. Do you think you could be unconsciously modeling your relationships after your parents?
I've already explained to you my rationale behind the girlfriends before. I do not mean to repeat myself.
Okay, I think it is time we end today's session. I will see you next time.
So this was also where I got to this point last time. He stopped publishing his book. To suggest progress, I just wonder if the critical point is in a later session.
All right, Adolf. I think it is finally time we talk about your father. We have made some real progress over these past few months.
No, I don't think that was it. I don't think it was his job either. He was a very orderly and conscientious person, so he liked the work as a customs officer, but he really hated the bourgeoisie. He was a self-taught genius, like me. I think we talked about him teaching me not to trust the authorities before. He was a very wise man. He knew a lot about a lot of things, and I admired him for this. I respected him, you see, but there was no love between us. I wanted to prove myself to him, but he rejected my accomplishments. He beat me often for the things I did. When I read Karl May once, I found that it was a sign of courage to hide one's pain. I decided that when he beat me next time, I would make no sound. When it happened, I knew my mother was standing anxiously at the door. I counted every stroke out loud. Mother thought I had gone mad when I reported to her with a beaming smile 32 strokes father gave me. From that day, I never needed to repeat this experiment. for my father never beat me again. I don't remember. I think it was a picture I drew.
What made you decide to show him?
I don't know. I was young and I wanted to cause him to smile. I didn't like him. I hated him, even while I was showing it to him, but I still wanted to be the cause of him smiling.
Most children want to please their parents, Adolf. It's healthy.
Healthy? I knew what he would do, and I still did it. Are you trying to say this is healthy?
The desire, yes. The decision to show him your sketch, consequences known, probably not. So you showed him your sketch, and after that?
He took it away from me. You already know what happened next, so there is little point in repeating this known information.
Yes, I do know what happened next, but the point is for you to acknowledge it. You need to say it and process it, even though it is painful.
It was not painful, and there is still no pain for me. It is normal for a father to do these things, hit and scream and yell.
Okay. Thank you for working that out loud. You say that's normal for a father.
Yes. More than anything.
Do you hate him because he hurt you?
I don't know why.
I'm sure you do. You just don't realize it yet. It's still around, just swimming under the water, just where you can't see it. You don't feel hate when you think of him hitting you, then when do you feel hatred towards him?
Just when I think of him at all. Him, my father, that causes hate in me.
All of it? All of the hate?
Yes. What do you mean?
When it comes, bubbles up inside you, what action do you take?
I have unimaginable things to do. For Germany, for the human race. What time is there for this anger management?
I understand the incomprehensible importance your life has been endowed with, but you are bound to do things when you are angry, regardless of your intent. They happen with or without us. You mention your work, your life, and career. What do you do when you feel angry during your work?
My colleagues commented on me being angry. That is why I started coming here. When I become angry, I vocalize this in my speeches. I told you before, I am most frustrated about the Jews controlling the economy. And as I stated on multiple occasions, the final goal of anti-Semitism must be the irrevocable and complete removal of the Jews. I have been saying this since 1919. Haven't you learned anything from me?
There is no reason to get aggressive, Adolf. I am your friend. You know I am trying to help you, and I already know what the cause of your anger is, but you weren't ready until now. But during the past months, we've built something here, and I feel like it's the right time to share my findings with you. I think you are ready to hear my final diagnosis. Do you want to hear it?
Sorry, Jess. I know you want to help me. Okay, tell me the findings.
It all started with the death of your mother. That was the first real trauma that happened to you, and even though you rationally acknowledged that the doctor helped your mother, you unconsciously associated her death with him. You unconsciously blamed him, the Jewish doctor, for the biggest pain in your life.
What are you talking about? I like this doctor, even though he was Jew.
Yes, that is true, but only on a conscious level. The unconscious consists of factors which you cannot control. The absolute majority of your psyche is controlled by your unconscious. I know you don't like to hear this because you like to control everything, but people have almost no control over their lives, you and me included. Only when you come to terms with the unconscious can you start becoming who you really are. That is also why you refer to the Jewish people as a cancer or an infection.
What are you saying? This is sounding nonsense to me.
I know it is hard to hear, but it is important that you understand this. You hated your father. He was meant to support you, but instead he beat you when you tried to connect with him. You told me before that you were glad he died. The hate towards him that you carried inside, it became twisted. The war trauma and the art school rejection only fueled it. You equated the Jews and the Marxists with your father. All of that hate was mistakenly redirected. We say projected. You couldn't take the pain he caused you, so you had to find some cause, and you projected it onto Jews and Marxists.
No, stop. I don't want to hear this.
This is my final diagnosis, Adolf. This is what we've been working on. You equated the cancer in your mother with Jews because you mistakenly associated the Jewish doctor with the cause of your mother's death. That's why you are so strongly anti-Semitic.
This is absolute nonsense. I will not listen to this.
Another thing is your high disgust sensitivity, which you mentioned a few times before. You are a so-called germaphobe. Your remarks about Jews being a virus, an infection, and Germany being a pristine body infected with Jewish parasites point very clearly to your behavioral immune system.
You Hosenscheißer. You useless fucking psychologist. You Arschgeig. I told you no more. That is it. We are done here, and I will remember you for this.
Well, I've had him angrily leave before, so I am not sure what the proper way to heal him is. Perhaps somebody else will get it, but that's just an idea of how this game works.